blood moon over Willow Creek. The town of Willow Creek was like any other small, rural community, nestled in the heart of the countryside, its streets quiet and its residents friendly. But beneath the surface, there lurked a darkness that few dared to acknowledge, a darkness that would soon consume us all. I arrived in Willow Creek on a crisp autumn evening, the leaves crunching beneath my tires as I navigated the winding roads that led into town. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and a sense of unease settled over me like a shroud. As I drove through the town's main street, I couldn't help but notice the way the residents watched me with wary eyes, their whispers following me like shadows. But I paid them no mind, determined to make a fresh start in this new town, far away from the memories that haunted me. I rented a small house on the outskirts of town, its old facade a reflection of my own weary soul. As I unpacked my belongings, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes followed my every move. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard strange noises echoing through the dark. The sound of scratching at the windows, of whispered voices carried on the wind. I tried to dismiss them as figments of my imagination, but deep down, I knew that something was terribly wrong in Willow Creek. As the days passed, the atmosphere in Willow Creek grew increasingly tense, the air thick with the stench of fear. Rumors circulated through the town like wildfire, tales of strange happenings and unexplained disappearances. I tried to ignore the whispers, to go about my daily life as if nothing were amiss. But the darkness that lurked in the shadows refused to be ignored, its presence growing stronger with each passing night. And then, on the night of the blood moon, everything changed. The sky turned a deep crimson hue, casting an eerie glow over the town like a harbinger of doom. As I looked out the window of my house, I saw figures moving through the darkness, their forms indistinct and ever-shifting. They moved with purpose, their eyes burning with a malevolent light. I knew then that whatever haunted Willow Creek was real, and it hungered for blood. With a sense of dread, I realized that I was in grave danger, that I was but a pawn in a game far greater than myself. I tried to leave town, to escape the horrors that lurked within its borders. But no matter how far I ran, I could not escape the darkness that followed me like a shadow. And as the blood moon reached its zenith, I felt something stir within me, a primal instinct that whispered of ancient terrors and forbidden knowledge. I found myself drawn to the heart of the town, to the source of the darkness that had consumed us all. I ventured into the woods, the trees looming over me like silent sentinels. The air was heavy with the scent of death, and I could hear the sound of footsteps echoing through the darkness. As I reached the clearing at the center of the woods, I saw figures gathered around a dark altar, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. In the center stood a creature unlike anything I had ever seen, its form twisted and grotesque, its eyes filled with malice. I knew then that this creature was the source of the darkness that had plagued Willow Creek, that it had been manipulating us all from the very beginning. With a surge of adrenaline, I charged forward, determined to confront the creature and put an end to its reign of terror. But it was too late. With a wave of its hand, the creature unleashed a wave of darkness that engulfed me, consuming me whole. As the darkness closed in around me, I felt myself slipping away, my very essence torn apart by forces beyond my comprehension. And as I faded into nothingness, I knew that Willow Creek would never be the same again. The darkness that enveloped Willow Creek remained, casting a shadow over the once peaceful town. In its wake, whispers of the horrors that had unfolded echoed through the streets, a chilling reminder of the price paid for meddling with forces beyond our understanding. And as the blood moon faded from the sky, leaving behind only darkness and despair, the fate of Willow Creek remained shrouded in mystery, a tale of terror that would haunt its residents for generations to come. Story 2. The Shadows Beyond. In the heart of Arkham, nestled among the winding streets and ancient buildings, stood the Miskatonic University Library. Its towering spires and Gothic architecture spoke of a bygone era, its halls filled with knowledge both forbidden and forgotten. As I entered the library, a sense of unease covered over me like a shroud. The air was filled with the scent of old books and decay. You could hear the shadows whispering secrets that I dared not comprehend. I approached the front desk, where an elderly librarian sat, her eyes sunken and her expression stern. "How may I assist you, traveler?" she asked, her voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "I seek knowledge," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Knowledge of the ancient and the forbidden." The librarian's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought she might refuse me entry. But then, with a nod of her head, she motioned for me to follow her into the depths of the library. As we descended into the lower levels, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to deepen, swallowing the light like a hungry beast. I could hear the sound of distant whispers echoing through the darkness, and I felt a tremble in my lungs. At last, we reached a secluded corner of the library, where the librarian produced a dusty tome from a hidden alcove. "Here," she said, handing it to me with a solemn expression. "But be warned, traveler. Some knowledge is best left buried." I spent hours poring over the ancient tome, my eyes tracing the strange symbols and cryptic passages that filled its pages. Each word seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, drawing me deeper into its twisted embrace. As I read, I felt a sense of unease settle over me, as if I were being watched by unseen eyes. Shadows danced along the walls, and the air grew heavy with the scent of sulfur. But despite the creeping sense of dread that filled me, I could not tear myself away from the book. Its secrets called to me, promising forbidden knowledge and untold power. And then, as I reached the final pages, I found what I had been searching for. A ritual, ancient and arcane, that promised to unlock the secrets of the universe and reveal the true nature of reality. With quaking hands, I gathered the necessary ingredients and prepared to perform the ritual. The air crackled with electricity, and the shadows seemed to writhe and twist in anticipation. But as I spoke the final incantation, a sense of dread washed over me like a tidal wave. The walls of the library began to tremble, and I realized with horror that I had awoken something far more ancient and terrible than I could have ever imagined. As the ritual reached its climax, a rift tore open in the fabric of reality, revealing a yawning chasm of darkness that seemed to stretch on into infinity. I stared into the abyss, my mind reeling with fear and fascination. From the depths of the void, I heard a voice, ancient and terrible, speaking in a language that was both familiar and incomprehensible. It whispered secrets that threatened to drive me mad, its words twisting and warping my perception of reality. I tried to close the rift, to banish the darkness that threatened to consume me whole, but it was too late. The shadows poured forth from the void, engulfing the library in an inky blackness that swallowed everything in its path. I stumbled backwards, my heart pounding in my chest as I fought to escape the darkness that surrounded me. But no matter how far I ran, I could not escape the abyss that had been unleashed upon the world. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the darkness receded, leaving behind only silence and emptiness. I looked around, my eyes wide with terror, and realized with a sinking feeling in my heart that I was alone. The library lay in ruins around me, its shelves overturned and its books scattered like leaves in the wind. And as I stood there, surrounded by the wreckage of my own making, I knew that I had unleashed something far more terrible than I could have ever envisioned. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the distant sound of wind whispering through the shattered windows of the library. I stood alone amidst the ruins, haunted by the knowledge of the horrors I had unleashed upon the world. And as the shadows closed in around me, I knew that the darkness that lurked beyond would forever haunt my dreams, a grim reminder of the price paid for delving too deeply into the unknown. The end. Subscribe for more. Thank you.